How do you feel? It's Friday night. It's Friday night. You're on the air. All right, 6:55 p.m. on the East Coast on Friday the 13th. It's the 13th day of January 2023. When we come back, this show will be operating on the second half of January. January will be half done. On a work weekend, on the work end, it's half done. So that's the toughest metric there is to have. Work days. The work is like play sometimes, I must say. Most of the time. That's why I have such fun doing this. But tonight we are going to be ending the week with yet another great guest, and that is the return of Leo Lion Zagami. And what are we going to talk about? Well, he's got a new book that is out. It's called Confessions of an Illuminati, Volume 8, From the Rise of the Antichrist to the Sound of the Devil and the Great Reset. So that's going to be providing some good topic of conversation tonight. But I also want to ask him, I want to get some Vatican scoops, because whenever he does appearances on other radio shows and stuff like that, always has good scoops about what's going on in the Vatican. And we've just had the death of a ousted pope, a pope who was ousted in part, large part, by international intelligence community and those who are perpetrating this Great Reset Agenda 2030 to merge both deep state and deep church, all infiltrated by the same source of evil. And then you have, well, I guess that's it. The question of what happens to Francis next, because he's not in good shape, and is he the prophesized last pope? So I want to throw that into Leo's lap, and we'll see what comes back. We'll see. But I'm happy to have you here on a weekender, and I'm thanking Secret Nature CBD. I had a little Secret Nature CBD before I went live. Fuji. I had a Fuji pre-roll, the sativa. Now I'm feeling nice. Feeling nice and focused, feeling nice and relaxed, and I'm glad that we're getting this one kicked off. I don't know if Matt is going to be here. He didn't say anything when I asked. But I don't know. Fridays are pretty automatic, so he may walk through the door. And if he doesn't, we have plenty to do, and we'll pick up the pieces for next week. And I think next Saturday is going to be the Saturday night show. Next Saturday is the 21st, I believe. So we'll do that, and I'm going to see who I can wrangle for that. That'll be a nice night. If we can do Andrew Bashago, have a whole bunch of time travel follow-up questions for him, or if it's just a boys' night, I don't know if I can get everybody in the same room. It's very hard to do that these days. So, whatever. Oh, I don't know. That was from 3D Movie Maker, a Windows 95 Movie Maker CD that we had back in the day. I bet you any money you can go onto YouTube and find 3D Movie Maker creations and things like that. Oh, did anybody else have 3D Movie Maker? Anthony did. Anthony in like 8th or 9th grade created almost a full feature film on 3D Movie Maker. It was an alien invasion film. It was pretty much like Independence Day a little bit or something like that. But it's just incredible. I even remember that. I'll look into that in the second half if I could remember an hour from now. But I want to thank Blue Monster Prep, Secret Nature CBD. Well, both of them. SecretNatureCBD.com. That is the place you go to give the nervous system a well-needed vacation. Staycation. It doesn't matter if you're in the woods in Vermont or in Montana or hiking in Wyoming. You could just be on your back porch in Shitville, USA, and it'll still be a nice, savory 5 to 10 minutes for yourself. Especially if you take a couple of pulls off their pre-rolls It doesn't get you stoned or anything like that, but there is just a general sense of well-being and good balanced after effects with those terpenes. It's aromatic. It really hits the nostrils. So, secretnaturecbd.com. Use promo code Frankly for 20% off, which is a huge amount. Very generous in that respect. All right. Nice week, flexible week coming up. Oh, before we go anywhere else into the grab bag, I want to tell you what the book club is for next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we will get off here around 8:30, 8:35 again. We'll go live there about 8:45 and roll for about 45 minutes to an hour. Here is the chapters. You're going chapters 6, 7, 8, and 9. That is pages... What the hell is it? I put all the pages in here before. Why the hell aren't they here? I think it's pages 45 to 87. If it's off the top of my head. I think it's 45 to 87. So another 40 minutes here. Another 40 pages here. And we're going to be done in a couple more weeks. Beautiful stuff. So that's for The Great Divorce, C.S. Lewis. The new thread is up on, quite frankly, .tv, the blog. There it is. So you go over there, the official thread, and you can start leaving your thoughts right now for chapters 6 through 9. 6 through 9. All right, into the grab bag we go. First one up, who am I to say I told you so? I'm pretty sure nobody out there is disbelieving in what we're facing here. New York Post. Biden think tank, where secret docs were stashed, accused of giving president and his allies no-show jobs. No-show jobs. This is The Sopranos, ladies and gentlemen. A conservative group has claimed that the University of Pennsylvania Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement flouted rules governing nonprofits, in part by giving the future president and his allies no-show jobs. The previously little-known center was thrust into the national spotlight Monday with the revelation that classified documents dating from President Biden's vice presidency were found at its Washington offices, ultimately leading to the appointment of special counsel, whatever. Let's see. The American First Legal Foundation, led by former Trump White House official Stephen Miller, submitted an IRS form 13909 complaint asking tax authorities to look into whether the center illicitly paid Biden and others for no work, among other possible violations. Now, if you watch The Sopranos or any other movie or series about organized crime, then you know. This is Tony and Johnny Sack picking the bones on the Esplanade construction site, haggling with each other, with each other's respective crews and captains, who gets no-show jobs for this, who gets a couple of carpenter jobs over here, who gets to skim a little bit off the top, who gets to take some copper wiring and sell it on the black market. You know, how to really just bust out a construction site and turn it into something that is completely self-serving, you know, while the rest of the world, whoever's paying attention, sees a slow-moving construction project somewhere in New Jersey. You know, that's what this is about. The no-show job. What did I say? What his office at that Penn place was all about? His office space over there. That it was. I said there was probably cobwebs on that desk. That was Tony Soprano's office at any construction site that he was taking a paycheck and getting a W-2 from. I said it last night. Listen, this is why you watch movies. This is why you watch film. It teaches you about the world. And, of course, there's just common sense. What the hell is Joe Biden going to be doing there? Nothing. Just like book deals are usually, down payments for some kind of scam that everybody did with each other, way to launder money through art. It's just all, and there you have it. A fiscal sponsor, the University of Pennsylvania, Penn, was obligated to conduct appropriate oversight on the Penn Biden Center's activities, the filing says. This obligation included preventing prohibited private benefits, e.g., example, no-show jobs, prohibited campaign intervention activities, unlawful political lobbying, and illegal influence peddling. It's everything. I'm telling you. So, we'll see where it goes. Of course we will. All right. Here is another one. Oh, Matt just showed up. How you doing, Matt?
Hello, Francis.
How's your day?
I hated it.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. Is there any chance that it'll get better in the next couple of hours?
No.
I'm sorry. I was going to try to make you laugh. Well, here's what we have from the Wall Street Journal. And I'm not going to read the whole thing with you because we don't need to go that far. The Wall Street Journal, they're asking the question, or they're making the statement, without consciousness, artificial intelligence, which we've talked about this week a little bit, and is a big theme inside of Leo Zagami's work recently, artificial intelligence will be sociopathic. They will be sociopaths. Chat GPT can carry on a conversation, but the most important goal for artificial intelligence is making it understand what it means to have a mind. All I'm going to say is this. To say that without consciousness, AIs will be sociopaths is like saying that without consciousness, a lawn rake will become a sociopath. This lawn rake over here will become sociopathic if we do not give it something that only God can create. It's a tool. We are the programmers. The real question should be, how do we strengthen the connection with our own conscience? Conscience, not consciousness. We should be talking about our conscience. We humans. How do we strengthen our connection with our own conscience? Not how do we give something that cannot be given to robots? Because our conscience is what keeps us from doing things like coercing other people into doing things against their will and inflicting needless pain on them, making them feel like they're assholes afterwards with the gaslighting and the lying and the theft and the bribery. That's what the magicians are trying to burn out of us. The magicians are trying to burn our conscience out of us so we continue to act like animals toward each other. Worse than robots. Turn us into sociopaths. You can see it all over places like TikTok, too, the dead eyes. The dead eyes that so many of these people have, especially the girls. So, yeah, stop worrying about how you're going to give the impossible to robots and start focusing a little bit more on how humans are being mechanized instead. And that leads me to this next disgrace from the Gateway Pundit. Self-proclaimed trans canine OnlyFans model gets fired for posting sex acts with dogs, the things that they said this would never lead to. All of this subjectivity and deconstructionism would never lead to, they said, people having sex with animals, because, and not just because they're getting off to dominating an animal, because they think they themselves are the animal. So it's even worse. It's even worse than they said would never happen. All right? Now, all I'm going to say with this, because I don't even want to go into the details, you know who ain't having sex with dogs?
Donald Trump.
Those damn dirty sociopathic AIs.
Well, yeah.
The AI. For whatever you can say about the AI, whatever you can say about them, the one thing they ain't going to be doing is shit like this. So, 3 cheers for the AI for not being human. Why would the hell we want to make AI more human when this is what humans do is beyond me. So that's what I got. I have a couple more things to read to set the stage for Leo Zagami. So we're just going to get started right now. Don't go anywhere. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Especially if you're on YouTube and on Rumble. I would love to see 1,000 likes on both places by the end of this show. Let's get there, guys and gals. It's working. It is working. We're seeing impacts. We're seeing things turn, and there's even bigger deals and partnerships and friendships and things happening in the future. We're doing everything we can to bust out this year. Let's do it. All right, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Everybody else shit. Fuck. Everybody else shit. Fuck. Everybody else shit. Fuck. Everybody else shit. Fuck.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's ride!
Hit that jive jack, put it in pocket till I get back. Going downtown to see a man, and I ain't got time to shake your hand. Hit that jive jack,
All right.
put it in pocket till I get back. Time and time waits for no man.
Matt, you ready to have a good time?
Shake your hand.
Kind of, yeah.
Is it possible to have a good time when you've had such a terrible day?
I had the worst day of my life.
Every Friday, we get
Every day.
every day is the worst one of your life. It's like Groundhog's Day, only Groundhog's Day stayed the same. Yours gets worse.
Oh, I gotta tell you later, bro. I finally came up with an idea for a YouTube channel. No one's doing it right now, and I know it would definitely work.
You should just do something.
I am. I'm gonna tell you after the show. You're gonna be like, oh shit,
Okay. Well, I'll help you.
genius.
I would love to help out. Maybe I can send some resources your way.
It's perfect for me.
Some photo resources. I'm sure Lauren would help with some stuff. But okay, I can't wait to hear about this. I'm sure everybody else, you just teased everybody now. All right, so here's what I have here on the opening. Now, Leo Zagami is coming on the show tonight. For those of you who don't remember Leo Zagami, because he was on before last spring or summer or something like that. A little on Leo. After a successful career in the media and music, in 2006, Leo Zagami began his popular activity on the web regarding his direct involvement with the New World Order and the secret societies to which it is connected. And since then, he has published an anthology of books on the subject and even had to flee his native Italy to take creative refuge here in the United States. And to his latest book, he focuses on cinema, and music, how they have been deliberately transformed into instruments of propaganda within restricted circles of initiates controlled by the Illuminati elite. Now, the book is titled, as I said before, Confessions of an Illuminati, Volume 8, From the Rise of the Antichrist to the Sound of the Devil and the Great Reset. Zagami reveals for the first time the true face and secret mission of Hollywood, born to change our society and prepare the way for the coming Antichrist in the end times.
Yeah.
So
That's why I had to leave Italy, bro, because the Illuminati is so deep in the Vatican there that, they ain't playing around. That's like the religious aspect, the religious control of the Illuminati.
we're going to get some Vatican scoops tonight too, because he has contacts out there. He's always been really interesting to listen to as far as inside the Vatican Beltway, what people are saying and what the rumors are. And I love that kind of cloak and dagger, sneaking through alleyways, smuggling information around kind of stuff. I love that. So there you go. That's what we're going to be doing tonight. But before we do that, because he'll be calling in about 10 minutes, I have an article, one of his latest articles over here, published on January 9th. It is called, this is from leozagami.com, Official One World Religion Commitment to Control Cyber Satan, taking place at the Vatican. January 9th. Let's see here. Everything I wrote in Volume 6.66 and Volume 7 in relation to Cyber Satan, the One World Religion, and the Vatican is unfolding in front of our eyes as we speak, An event entitled AI Ethics, an Abrahamic Commitment to the Rome Call, will take place at the Vatican January 10th. So it just happened this week. Didn't even know about it. On this occasion, 3 representatives of the 3 Abrahamic religions will sign the Rome Call for AI Ethics, a document issued by the Pontifical Academy for Life and furthered by the Renaissance Foundation, Renaissance spelt with a capital AI, in an effort to officially promote algor ethics. For example, an ethical development of artificial intelligence, but in reality, a first step in the project will merge the upcoming one world religion with the cyber Satan takeover I warned you about so many times in my work. I want him to talk about cyber Satan. Does he see this as is the Antichrist a person, or is he seeing it as a digital program machine beast that is coming? Monsignor Vincenzo Paglia, president of the Pontifical Academy for Life, was the first to promote the Rome Call back in February 2020, when the event in question saw the participation of senior representatives from Microsoft, IBM, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, I should say, the Italian government, and the EU, who signed a joint statement entitled Call for an AI Ethics. This event followed the first step in a diabolic project set up by the Jesuits and their allies, which took place at the end of February 2019, entitled Roboethics, People, Machines, and Health.
I don't like the Jesuits.
Murky, huh? Murky. But this year's event will be more significant as they are finally starting to merge their one world religion project with their AI robotic agenda. Attending the official signing ceremony happening tomorrow at the Vatican will be Chief Rabbi Eliezer Simcha Weiss, member of the Council of the Chief Rabbinate of Israel. I don't know how to say that word. Sheikh Abdullah bin Baya, head of the Abu Dhabi Forum for Peace and chairman of the UAE Fatwa Council. And since Bishop Paglia has been at the head of the Pontifical Academy for Life, above all, he said, he has been the head of the new John Paul II Institute, now called For the Sciences of Marriage and Family. One loses count of his utterly contradictory interventions literally destroy Catholic morality. For example, last summer, Monsignor Vincenzo Paglia appeared to the Italian public television channel Rai 3, speaking in support of abortion and Law 194, which made it legal in Italy in 1974. Paglia declared, quote, "I think that Law 194 is now a pillar of our social life," end quote. But even after a heated controversy erupted, he still stayed in his place thanks to the unconditional support of Satanist Pope Francis. The first signatories of Rome Call for AI Ethics present at tomorrow's meeting will be Brad Smith, president of Microsoft, Dario Gil, global vice president of IBM, and Maximo Torero Cullen, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations chief economist, will attend the interreligious signing ceremony in the morning with a view to renewing their fake commitment to made control of the AI, aka Cyber Satan, that will be used by the Antichrist to control his evil empire. So, I got a lot to ask him. A lot. Hey, what does your cousin think about the Pope? I mean, obviously he's a company man. He doesn't want to ruffle feathers, but is he off? I'll just say in diplomatic word, is he off put by anything going on?
It's not his favorite Pope.
Not his favorite Pope. Okay. That's all I need to know.
Francis, I know he probably liked a little better, but that wasn't his favorite either. He was a John Paul.
Well,
anti-communist.
That's what made John Paul II Benedict XVI proof, as far as what they did to Benedict.
Yeah. He was too loved. They couldn't just
way too loved.
Yeah. My cousin's very anti. Every day he's posting something about a priest or a monk or someone being killed by commies.
It's just too much all at once. But that's why I can't wait to get this stuff out there. There's more too. Leo also was talking about, because a lot of this is about Hollywood. We're going to start with Hollywood tonight, and he was even talking about Lisa Marie Presley.
Was she was Illuminati?
Well, not so much her.
She was controlled by it.
But he said that her father was controlled. Was
oh,
used,
yeah, for sure, bro.
Was used as a tool. So you think about that, and she didn't have too much of an easy life there too. But he wrote something about her. There's a couple other ones, man. There's enough. I mean, Beck dying.
Beck died?
No. What's his name? The guitarist. Now I'm losing.
All right. Not
anyway,
Jeff Beck or whatever his name is. Or
the 78-year-old
guitar player.
Yeah, he died yesterday, or at least it was announced yesterday. There's that. There's the drummer of what's the other one? Shoot, I forgot.
There's just so many. They're hard to remember, and there's all these high school kids.
Those are the worst ones. Out of all the things going, I know we were talking a little more high end. All the celebrity deaths that we've been getting lately, but that's compared to nothing. And celebrity deaths are these. You're talking about people. You reach a certain point of celebrity, you're talking about so few around there. And when you see them coming down with one thing or another, you know that average people are getting their shit rocked.
Yeah, but celebrities also, a lot of them do drugs and shit. So sometimes, it's really not that surprising. I mean, you do enough cocaine, you got high blood pressure. I mean, I'm sure something bad will probably happen.
There is that. And speaking of Benedict, since we're talking about the Antichrist here, apparently he left a little something. In 2015, Pope Benedict XVI wrote a letter to Catholic statesman Vladimir Palko, urging prayer against the expanding power of the Antichrist. I wonder what your cousin has to say about this.
Well, he'll be here for a week. Actually, he's going to baptize my niece on, I'm not sure the day. I have to find out.
10th.
But
he contacted me. He said he's going to be around.
Andrew didn't tell me the day. He just asked me to be the godfather. Of course, I said yes, because it's another opportunity for me to take care of all my enemies while the baptism's going on.
That's the best thing about becoming a godfather, is that when you're asked, you know that you are completely immune from prosecution during the actual baptism.
Yeah, I got to do it. This will be the third time.
So how many people have you killed?
That's
You can kill a lot of people during one baptism.
I was in a bad mood the day, so I just started naming names and
take them all out. But listen, the baptism ends at this time. I'll be liable for all these deaths if you don't get it done quick. Today's Standard published a short interview that Jaro conducted with Vlado, in which he revealed the contents of Benedict's letter. Here's an excerpt from it. Here's the question: when you reported the letter for the first time, you decided not to publish part of the text, noting that it was not the right time to do so. The reason was a sensitive content and the concerns that the late Pope expressed about the state of the Catholic Church. Would you elaborate on that? He says, yes, it's like that. The letter is not long. It has 12 lines. In the second half of the letter, there is a sentence about 3 lines long in which the Pope Emeritus makes some striking claims. The sentence reads as follows: we see how the power of the Antichrist is expanding, and we can only pray that the Lord will give us strong shepherds who will defend the church in this hour of need from the power of evil. In German, it reads like this: I don't know, read that. He's actually putting the phonetic German there. So, really something. Really interesting year so far. I wonder what we're going to be talking about this time, 2024.
You know what I hope?
What?
That we're taking America back.
I don't know where this is heading, but there's so much time. And Joe Biden already has all these problems in January of 23.
Well, he doesn't know about them.
It's incredible. I'm waiting with bated breath.
Did you see him when he was talking? The Corvette, it's locked. The garage, you see it?
What's there to say? Seriously, what's there to say at this
I wonder
point?
what kind of crackheads saw documents in that garage that his son was smoking crack in.
Well, did you hear me? Did you hear me cover that New York Post article? It was the first one that I did. We're talking about the no-show jobs.
Yeah, that's mafia shit right there.
I mean, they have them in empty. There's probably bagmen moving in and out, taking documents, thumbing through things, probably deliveries and all that, and these documents were purely transactional, no doubt about it. It's probably actionable intelligence for one reason or another. You don't even know you don't even have to know the details. The fact that it's there.
Yeah, with this guy's connections to China and everything.
Right. You're right. A skid mark on the underpants of history. That's what he is. All right, so we're going to be taking some super chats in the second half of the show, or I'll try to keep an eye on them too if there's anything. But, once Leo starts going, it's hard to stop him. So I don't know if I would be able to relay that many questions outside of what I already have here. There's a couple of super chats that already came in, though. Hugh Janus says, "Hey, Frank and Matt, love the show. You're always crushing it. Everything is fake and gay. That's all. Just keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, Hugh." Mrs. Winston. Mrs. Winston. Winston has a wife. Did you hear that's what Lauren named the opossum?
Yeah, you said Winston. Yeah,
Winston. Mrs. Winston just left me a super chat. Says, "Frank, you need to put Lauren in check. I have been working these streets, turning tricks to support Winston, and I don't need Lauren trying to take care of him. She better watch it or I will cut someone." See, this is, and she said, Lauren said that they're very sweet. They're not. You see how vindictive? Just threw out some scrap food.
Lauren doesn't run away from it anymore?
No, Lauren doesn't run away. Lauren would run from a skunk, which I saw last night.
That's the worst thing to do.
Dude, I heard. I'll tell you about it later. I saw a skunk in the backyard last night that looked like a Volkswagen with a coat on, hobbling around like a freak.
That's his winter coat.
I know it is. If I, ugh,
Really
man,
nice fur they got though.
Interesting. Well, anyhow, we're going to bring on our guest right now. I've been waiting to speak with this man for a while. Oh, I can't wait to get all the updates from Leo Zagami's world and beyond. Leo, are you there?
Yes, I am. Finally. Hello,
Oh, yes.
quite frankly.
Yes.
Speaking, I'm here.
Finally. I cannot. Oh, that's not your name. Boops. I have your friend Timothy Alberino's name still on the screen. All right, Leo. It's.
Hello to Timothy if he's watching. As you just said, there is a lot of news coming out also from the Vatican. Today we are also, of course, introducing my new book, which has also a chapter dedicated to all those changes that even the show business in some way addressed together with the Vatican after their conciliar, their moment of maximum importance in the last century was this conciliary moment, which went on from in the early 60s. In the first half of the 60s, the Second Vatican Council got together the whole church to rediscuss their faith. And that was the moment in which basically Freemasonry got control of the whole show together with the Jesuits, and they eventually brought us all the way to what we now see with Pope Francis, which is a completely different church from what we had back in the pre-conciliar days, in the pre-Vatican II days, which, like I said, started with in the 1960s. So with Papa Roncalli, then we had Papa Montini. These two, by the way, these two popes were Freemasons, just like Pope Francis, who is also a Freemason. And we had Pope Ratzinger instead, who kind of was part, of course, of the Second Vatican Council. He participated in first person to it, so he actually had some say in it, but he still wanted to keep the Freemasons at distance in a way. So he never really got to finish his papacy because eventually they made him resign. That happened, of course, 10 years ago.
Incredible. Incredible how long, too. How long he would have lasted in comparison to what he was forced out on. But, before we get, I would love to end.
The oldest pope in history. He would have been basically the oldest pope in history to die at his age.
I definitely want to get back around to. I want to finish with the Vatican, but first I want to start with your book, and before we get to Hollywood aspect of the book, I want to ask you this. So we're only 2 weeks into the new year, and on your website, you wrote the following. I have an excerpt right here. The year 2023 will be for sure a very special year for the Illuminati and another turning point for the establishment of a one-world religion and the New World Order moving forward toward the AI Cyber Satan takeover of 2030. First thing I want to know is, can you tell us what the importance of the number 23 is, and what should we expect from this new year?
Well, the number 23 has always had a lot of importance for the Illuminati. It kind of like started a century ago when there was this way of saying here in the US, 23 skidoo. It was kind of a saying that people had, but it became much more when Aleister Crowley decided to pick up this concept in chapter 23 of his book, The Book of Lies, which is considered by most of his followers the actual cryptic message in which you can understand the whole of Crowellianity and also of your initiatory path. And so the number 23 later got picked up by another gentleman, Robert Anton Wilson, who co-wrote the Illuminatus trilogy, wrote Cosmic Trigger, and these books basically were referencing to the number 23 because the number 23 is found in a series of texts, and is also a number that was very popular in, let's say, the cyber cultural circles, thanks to another gentleman known as Genesis P. Orridge. And he's a guy I talk very much about in this book also, because without him we will basically not have all the young generations that are filled with piercings, tattoos, and all the rest. Because if you thought that this was simply a trend that came out of nowhere, you are completely wrong. And Genesis P. Orridge was himself a disciple, let's say. He knew Anton LaVey. He created his own secret society, and he was mingling between the world of the music business and the esoteric world. So he created a secret society called the Temple of Psychic Youth. And also he participated to another project, the Esoteric Order of Dagon, together with another important guy that many people will have heard about, which is Michael Aquino of the Temple of Set. As you know, in my book, I talk very much of the modern Satanism and how this modern Satanism really came together, because people, sometimes reference, for example, to Anton LaVey or maybe to Michael Aquino, but they don't really know the whole, the origins of modern Satanism, which actually originated over 100 years ago within the Theosophical Society, the Theosophical milieu, and later on, of course, in 1966, a follower of Aleister Crowley, Anton LaVey, whose real name is Anton Levi, so a Jew. But also, when it comes to Jewish people, this book finally explains you why you shouldn't be condemning the whole of Judaism, just as you shouldn't be condemning the whole of Catholicism or the whole of this or that, because otherwise you are too overly simplistic, like Kanye West, for example. And
we have to get into, don't get into Kanye West just yet. I want to talk about him in a little bit, but keep going. Yes.
Okay, so the number 23 for the Illuminati has very particular meanings, and that's why the actual Ratzinger was sent to rest as Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI with a funeral that took place on the 5th of January 2023. 5 is actually 2 plus 3. This is how, you calculate at times within, when you sum the number 2 and 3, you basically get the number 23, but you also get 5. And when you go into the 5th letter of the alphabet, you also get H, which is also the initial word for hell. And I must say that Ratzinger, I don't know. I mean, I'm not God. I don't want to judge anybody, but he wasn't that great. And there is a lot of conservative people say he was the last great pope. He was the real conservative one. That's why they made him resign. Listen, he would have never resigned if he didn't have a bunch of skeletons in his closet. And that's how it is. So the Jesuits that took control for the first time in the Vatican with Pope Francis knew that very well, and simply blackmail him out of office 10 years ago. But in talking about the number 23 is also associated, of course, with the current year. And like I said, there is a guy you should maybe study a bit, because I think that his books can give you a lot of can give you an initial knowledge that maybe can then introduce you to go into further depth. Robert Anton Wilson, who died in 2007, was an American author, but he was also an Illuminati member because he was a member of the Ordo Templi Orientis. And in his non-fictional books, he always was fascinated by the number 23 that he discovered, by the way, through William Burroughs. Now, William Burroughs is another important and charismatic figure of the Beat generation, the author, of course, of Naked Lunch, but for me, also a friend of my family, because as I explain in my book, and I show in my book, with, of course, documents and photos and all the rest, my grandmother, Felicity Mason, known also as Anne Cumming, was an author, but she was also teaching acting, and she was working as PR for William Burroughs and for also Brian Gyson. These figures, these important cultural figures of the last 100 years, because they are equally as important as Aleister Crowley, in the 70s created a kind of magic known as chaos magic. Now, that chaos magic, it's really where that techno-anarchic cyber culture then sprang out from, because then people like Genesis P. Orridge were very much inspired by what Brian Gyson and William Burroughs were doing, using this so-called cut-up technique, which was basically mixing phrases picked up from different contexts or mixing images. You can do it in various ways. The cut-up technique is actually an old Dadaist technique that was resurfaced with the William Burroughs and Brian Gyson. But for people who, of course, don't know who all these people are, just let me give you a simple example of how influential was William Burroughs. You know the song Wild Boys by the Duran Duran?
Yes, yep.
Everybody knows it. Well, that is inspired by the book Wild Boys of William Burroughs. And in that book, you find the character Boy, which was then picked up by Boy George, who made a whole concept. Boy George and his shop in the 80s was called Boy. He was selling those things. That was also inspired by William Burroughs. And basically, Boy George was a great fan, just as the Duran Duran were great fans. And another example, Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain, one of the last things he did as he was alive, and that he was proud of, was to actually have done a record with William Burroughs and to have actually met him in person. That made him very happy. And so, but people have this romanticized idea of Kurt Cobain. They don't imagine that Kurt Cobain actually wanted Anton LaVey to play the flute in one of his musical projects. That's not very romantic.
No, it's not. Hey, well, let me ask you this then, because of the second part of that question there, when you're talking about 23 in the year 2023, and you said the one world religion and the new world order is moving toward an AI cyber Satan takeover. When it comes to cyber Satan and the Antichrist, when you look at this, do you see a specific person? Or is this a system? Is the Antichrist a person, or is it a system like a false reality machine beast like the metaverse?
No. You have cyber Satan is artificial intelligence that will help the rise of the Antichrist, which will be a human being.
Okay.
This is basically the whole concept. When it comes down to the number 23. I want to finish regarding number 23 because it's a quite lengthy subject, but I want to synthesize it. 23 were also the number of the Grand Master of the Knights Templars. 23 was basically it's a number that occurs also when you put 23 from a male and then a female, you get 46 chromosomes. Basically, you are at the basis of the human system. And so 23 had also specific meaning, for example, in the show Lost. And actually, that is something that you can go and check. Of course, Lost, everybody knows the show Lost. But 23 was so important for William Burroughs because one day he got told this story about a certain Captain Clerk who ran a ferry from Tangiers to Spain. Now, one day Clark said to Burroughs that he'd been running the ferry for 23 years without an accident. He was very proud of it. The day after, the ship sank. And at the same time, Burroughs tuned in on the radio and heard that a flight that was listed as Flight 23, that was basically on a New York-Miami route, had fallen. And the letter W is actually the 23rd letter of the alphabet. And the equivalent in Hebrew, www, transliterated into Hebrew, bab, is actually 666. So 23 is a very important number. Also a number of things that are in between, kind of described like this by Kenneth Grant in his books. And so I think that this year we definitely have an in-between year onto things that are going to get even worse. Now, when it comes to Cyber Satan, I don't know if you know, but the Vatican just had an important meeting the other day.
We just read your blog post on that prior to you arriving, so we have a little bit of a background, but keep going.
Yes, so I've been talking about the subject for years. In fact, I not only analyzed it in depth in volume 7, but also in volume 6.66, which was really based on this rise of Cyber Satan in our culture. So parallel to them putting together from the early days of 2019 this Human Fraternity document and this project that Pope Francis has been doing even in the middle of the pandemic. He will go around the world to the Shiites. He started with the Sunni Muslims to unify all the religions of the world. He went to the Buddhists. He, of course, has on board also certain elements of the Jewish, also from Judaism. So all these people are coming together basically to form a one world religion. But at the same time, they went to the Vatican the other day to commit themselves as Abrahamic faiths to Cyber Satan, meaning to controlling the ethics of the AI. Now, how can you really wish to yourself to have these people controlling the ethics of the AI is already a failure, I think, because do you think these people are going to be biased?
Yeah, I know.
So it's going to be a nightmare anyway. In my book, I talked also about how the AI has recently influenced very much Hollywood. Even the choices that Hollywood is making regarding certain movies, at times the AI is lurking behind the scene, aside from being able to actually reproduce the physiognomy of popular actors that will soon sell the rights. So in the future, we will have films with Robert De Niro, who is long dead, but reconstructed by an AI.
That's true.
And then we will have the metaverse, which is also AI-driven. And Hollywood is also investing a lot of money in the metaverse. And the metaverse, of course, will be the digital prison of all those people who will fall into this trap, which I hope many of your viewers will avoid. That's why in my book I explain how we have really been able in the last 100 years to witness a complete change in our society, because we have been pushed from the various sides of the show business, in particular, that function as propaganda for the arrival of the Antichrist. We have, of course, this happened in the music business, happened in cinema, so we can discuss whatever side you like.
No, that's exactly where we're going. Well, first of all, I just think it's interesting because I wanted to know about 23, but the fact that we ran through the Knights Templar, the Vatican. We're talking here on the Friday the 13th. That all links together. So
because people don't know, but Friday the 13th was actually the day in which the Knights Templars were persecuted by Philippe the Fair, and that was the end, basically, of the Knights Templar. That's why Friday the 13th assumed a negative connotation.
Yeah.
And so it's quite interesting that today we are definitely on the 23, because actually there is a publication. The Masons are publishing a book that they are promoting today. Louis Masonic, which is one of the main Masonic publications today, has publicized this new book, The Knights Templar, by Paul Vision, which basically talks about Friday the 13th of October 1307, and when the Knights Templar were struck down in a secret dawn raid by the King of France.
Yeah, and I would love to get more into that at another time, do more history like that, to go back throughout the years. But on this, now, your latest book, Confessions of Illuminati, Volume 8, From the Rise of the Antichrist to the Sound of the Devil and the Great Reset. You said in one of the posts in support of this book that this is the only book that could help Kanye West clear up his confusion about Hollywood's secret purpose. So aside from talking at large about how Hollywood was specifically implemented along with the music industry to create these tools of propaganda for the Illuminati elite, could you tell us where Kanye West is most confused about Hollywood's purpose?
Because he goes along, first of all, with this fake myth of the Khazarian mafia. Okay, first of all, there is a big problem in Judaism, and it's called Sabbatean Frankism. Now, for those who don't know about what I'm talking about, this is an heresy that was started by a guy called Shabbatai Zevi, and 1 century later, in the 18th century, by a guy who claimed he was his reincarnation, Jacob Frank. And so that's why it's known as Sabbatean Frankism. These people decided to create a current which will be devastating for everybody, not only for Judaism, because Shabbatai Zevi is the one who started sex magic, not Aleister Crowley. In 1666, Shabbatai Zevi went out to the Sultan of Turkey because he was living in Turkey, and he came out as a Muslim when he was forced to abdicate his faith. And so then they started this new trend. They could actually outwardly, in the outward world, they will proclaim they are Christian, they are Muslims, they are this and this other. But in secret, they will continue this heretical Jewish practice, which goes against the Torah, goes against basically everything, because they think that by acting evil, they will assure that the Messiah will arrive faster. It's a crazy procedure. I mean, if you think about it, it's like they believe in the purification through sin. It's basically, let's all sin, let's have orgies, let's have all kinds of deviant practices, because in this way, God will get pissed and he will send his son sooner. I mean, it's sick, but that's how it is. And it actually worked out. And Shabbatai Zevi was extremely influential back in the days. And later on, Jacob Frank was also very influential. Jacob Frank came out of the area between what is now Ukraine and Poland, while instead Shabbatai Zevi, like I said, was in Turkey. But both of these figures then managed to influence a lot of people from the Jewish world that later on gave the basis for everything that is bad within the Jewish world. Like, for example, labor Zionism, which is completely antithetic to Orthodox Judaism, it's the creation of the Sabbatean Frankists. The school of the Frankfurt School, you ever heard of the Frankfurt School? Of course, because
absolutely.
it's behind the woke ideology. Well, behind them, Frankfurt, there were lodges, actually, of people involved with the Sabbatean Frankists. And the Sabbatean Frankists became involved, of course, with the Rothschild family. And they became heavily involved with pushing more and more their heretical ideas. And so when they found Hollywood, it was like, wow, this is the perfect place. We need to plant our seeds here, all of us. So let come from all over the world, all Jews belonging to the heretic Sabbatean Frankist movement, come all to Hollywood and and lay the foundations for what is now, of course, that problem which Kanye West sees as being created by all of the Jewish world. He's very wrong in doing that, you understand, because there has been rabbis who have been fighting this heresy for years. And so I asked friends from the Chabad, however you want to mention, call it, pronounce it, organization, to help me. And they sent me books to study. I also verified through other sources if this work was correct. And then in the end, we learned that Adolf Hitler, who was partly Jew, was actually the product of a Sabbatean Frankist ritual. This was said by a rabbi. So it's
Wow.
it's like Kanye West is basically glorifying Hitler when Hitler is the product of the heresy which is ruining his world. It doesn't make any sense. You understand?
Absolutely. Now, when would you say, because when it comes to even just Germany and the Weimar Republic, a lot of people have written about the kind of degeneracy that was all throughout their show business, through their movies, their theaters. It was becoming very pornographic. That Berlin.
There was also occult elements in Germany in the 20s and 30s in their movies, very evident.
Is it the same? Is it the same people that eventually put all their attention on the American cinema afterwards, or were they already here?
Absolutely. There were secret societies, those that were specific to Germany. In the case of the old black and white movie Nosferatu, you remember that?
Yep.
Okay, everybody watches it. That movie is actually connected directly. The producer, the director, everything is connected to a secret society known as the Fraternitas Saturni, which practices vampirism to this day. And they have the headquarters in Berlin. And some of their members are actually also, though, connected with Hollywood. And that's why, in the end, you know where the wife of the former, now wife of Nicolas Schreck, also daughter of Anton LaVey, is living in today? Right. Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
We saw her in the 80s with Michael Aquino, with Geraldo Rivera on TV, and she was the one that, of course, you are the daughter of Anton LaVey, you are born in that context, but then we know that there was a split in the Anton LaVey church in the middle of the 70s, and that was the moment in which Michael Aquino took control of a group of people and created this temple of Set as a more intellectual form of Satanism. But then 10 years ago, modern Satanism wanted to go to their last and ultimate stage, which is political Satanism, and that is Lucian Greaves and the Satanic Temple. Now, people don't know that, but Lucian Greaves, that goes on TV with Tucker Carlson, he's also a Hebrew. He's also Jew, and he's a Sabbatean Frankist. So Anton LaVey was a Sabbatean Frankist Jew. His real name was Anton Levi. Doug Mesmer, or whatever you want to call him, Lucian Greaves, same thing. These people are all from, Marilyn Manson, Sabbatean Frankist Jew.
So we did a deep dive with Ryan Gable about Sabbatean Frankism and Saturnalia, and it was so I'm happy we did that a couple of maybe about a month or so ago, because it's a prerequisite for what you're talking about right now. Makes a lot of sense. And when you're talking about cinema, there's also the other side of the same coin, and that is the music industry. When you write about diabolical roots in contemporary music, are you talking about, do you pay any attention to another thing, a topic that has actually come up a lot in the last week and a half on this show? Do you ever pay attention to this theory about why the standard frequency in music in the 20th century changed from 432?
The first chapters are dedicated to that. The first chapter.
Oh, so you get into the frequency change too?
Absolutely. It's the first two. Actually, I can tell you, because if you want, I can go on the table of contents of my book and I can tell you. It's from the first chapter that I start with this subject. And of course, I discuss frequencies. I discuss also the fine-tuning of music, which was distorted in 1939 by Goebbels and the BBC, the standardization of sound, so the A, the Do, depending on the systems, when you calculate, when you do the music today, you are in the Anglo-Saxon world, you talk with A, B, C. In the rest of the world is Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Si. So musicians have these notes, of course, they are a standard. And these notes, of course, then one note in particular, which is the A, needs to be then tuned. Then they change the tune of this note, and they change it from 432 to 440 hertz. This incentivized, of course, the level in which music gets at that point to become a passive kind of music instead than being a music that can actually make you ascend to the heavens.
Yeah.
I actually talk about the frequency concept because it's very important also in relation. I mean, frequency is fundamental, and it's very important also in relation to electromagnetic fields. And so, and also I discussed in my book the quality of the music and why it's becoming worse and worse. We went from vinyl, which, I was a record producer. For those who don't know it, I produced over 40 singles and 5 albums, so I know something about music. And I was always a lover of vinyl because vinyl, we used to record back in the days when I was a record producer with a DAT, which is a digital audio tape. And you could still have very much a profound sound. When you put it on CD, you already had a 44.1 hertz cap, which already kind of compressed it. And so it wasn't as deep. Then you arrive to what we have now, the rubbish, the fast food of music, MP3s, complete BS. I mean, it's like, that is the fast food of music. And that's why all that is part of the frequency change that they are adopting. As well as also in my book, I discuss the fact that you will own nothing and be happy. And that is the philosophy of streaming. Because what do you own when you get music on Spotify, on iTunes? What do you own?
It's so true because I was talking about this before. I've gotten into the habit of thinking about, all right, if we go on a vacation or whatever, I want to make sure that we have certain things with us. So I buy things on Amazon. All of a sudden, I realize that I've got a growing library of movies on Amazon that I don't hold in my hand anymore. If the power goes out, there's no putting it in. There's no putting it into a VCR anymore with a battery and a generator. You don't own anything. And when we think about the World Economic Forum talking about deindustrializing the planet, we're thinking in great terms. Well, we don't think about the little ways that we have completely surrendered ownership just through these digital transactions we always make all the time. It's true.
Yeah, and I'm a proud owner of over 10,000 vinyl records. I think I have probably around 15,000. And I have them back in Italy. Unfortunately, I was not able to bring them here. Gradually, I'm bringing some of my books. I have also a collection of 8,000 plus books, which I'm trying to bring here. Unfortunately, I live in a very modest setup here in the US. I don't have the big villas I used to have when I was living in Europe. I had to flee Europe, as you know, and leave all that. Fortunately, I have friends and family that are taking care of my things. But they are things that you actually own physically. I own physically a record collection. I know that is my history. That is my work. That is years, decades of work, just as my books. I will never give up my books for a Kindle. I make available, for example, this book, which is almost 700 pages on Kindle, which is almost 1,000 pages on Kindle, simply for practical reason, because some people don't want to go around with a big book like this. So they want to have the Kindle and that's it. But I always suggest to people who purchase the Kindle to also purchase the paper book, because one day, otherwise, we risk a digital desert, and that's not a nice thing.
No, it's not. So I'm sure this will. A lot of the other themes in the book are going to be popping up again. So with Hollywood, great understanding there. Its marriage with the music industry and fantastic. I can't wait to get this book. But now, as far as Vatican scoops. You're really great for getting scoops and whispers from the Vatican. It was a very busy month over there in Rome. First, we had Francis referencing the arrival of some elegant demon. That's what he said in Rome. Then we have Benedict dying.
The elegant demon, in his words, it was like describing these people who go around, maybe, all kind of well-dressed from the Opus Dei or from other organization in the Catholic Church. And in any way, in any case, they seem to be very much about their exterior look, not their real belief system and how they really live their life in the image of God. That is really the criticism that, in a way, Francis was doing, because he is promoting this idea that, of course, we need to own nothing and be happy. Remember that. And he's in line with the Great Reset. Like I explained in volume 7 of my Confessions, and I explained that in detail, the Great Reset was in part born in the Vatican, because in 1966, at the end, when the Second Vatican Council lasted until December 1965, and from the year zero of Satanism, 1966, it took actually to become the main ideology of the church. But in December 1965, a sinister group of cardinals, bishops, went under Rome in the catacombs and made a ritual, and they called it the Pact of the Catacombs, which includes 13 points. And it's a Marxist manifesto, and the guy who inspired it was one of the main fathers of liberation theology, Bishop Camara from Brazil. He got called by Klaus Schwab in the middle of the 70s, and he was known as the Red Bishop, to actually kickstart the Davos, the World Economic Forum. And so at that point, the people in Switzerland were like, why are you calling a communist? We are in the middle of the Cold War. This doesn't make any sense. And Klaus Schwab said, it was the most difficult moment of my career, but I believed in Camara. So he went for it. And from that moment onwards, basically, the Great Reset kick-started. And now, between the 16th and the 20th of this month, we have it once again with the Davos Economic Forum, which is now
huge,
fueled with heads of state, business, and also CEOs from Hollywood, because that's also what I talk about in Volume 8 of my Confessions. People don't know that, but the CEOs of Hollywood, Leonardo DiCaprio, and many other people, they regularly attend Davos to take their marching orders.
I think about that. So I guess the only other thing is there, when someone like Francis warns us about something like an elegant demon, even if it's just in jest or something literal, it always makes me wonder, because of the messenger, what's the reality of it? Is it an inversion, whatnot? But like I was saying with December in Rome, Benedict dies in the final moments of 2022
in Rome, because we had the death of Ratzinger, and now in the last few days we had also the death of Cardinal George Pell. But at the same time, the death of Ratzinger means that finally they can investigate in one of their darkest moments, which I've been talking about in Volume 3 of my Confessions, because, of course, I interviewed many times in person Pietro Orlandi, brother of Emanuele Orlandi, whose documentary is now on Netflix, one of the most popular documentary about this mystery of this Vatican citizen that disappeared in the early 80s, never to be found again. And this story is connected to pedophilia, to Satanism, and, like I said, to some of the darkest moments of the Vatican. And the Vatican never really wanted to talk about it again. And 10 years ago, when the Ratzinger was made to resign, he was made to resign because, if you remember, a year prior to that, some papers were stolen from his office, from his private Casa Forte, however you call it in English. But basically, Ratzinger had his butler, Paolo Gabrieli, known as the Crow, Il Corvo, who stole these documents, and then got a guy, journalist, investigative journalist, to publish them in a book. Now, publishing books like that put Ratzinger in the corner. One of these documents was about the fact that he didn't, there was an explicit letter that they wrote to him when he was about to do his Sunday speech, saying, "You can't talk about Emanuela Orlandi." Emanuela Orlandi, like I said, was a young teenager who disappeared, who was a Vatican citizen. Vatican citizen are very rare. We are talking about a state that doesn't even count 1,000 citizens. So they live all in a very exclusive way, let's say, within the Vatican walls, these Vatican citizens. The father used to work for the Vatican, but she was never seen again. And the brother has been searching for her ever since. And she disappeared, but of course, her disappearance was linked with Marcinkus, who used to be the head of the Vatican Bank, if you remember. The whole scandal with the P2 just happened back in the early 80s. And there was also, of course, then later on also what Ali Akçaa said about, who was the guy who attempted the life of John Paul II, who also said that Emanuele Orlandi had been taken as a form of blackmail also towards the Vatican. There is a lot of hypotheses, but now they're starting to surface. And this girl, apparently, from speaking with the brother, was kidnapped, was made to participate to a black mass. This is what Father Amor, the #1 exorcist in the Vatican, said. And during this black mass, she was also made to snort cocaine, and some people say that probably she died, even if the brother tends to want to still think she's alive. And some people have said she's still alive, including Ali Akçaa. But this is coming in the last week out, this story again, because Father Georg Gershwin, who used to be the assistant and secretary of the Pope Ratzinger, you remember, there was just a few days ago, there was a big thing about his book, because he brought out a book, but he also was not really made to co-participate to the funeral. And that is a very strange thing, because you have to understand, Father Georg in the Vatican was a very powerful figure when Ratzinger was around. But then, like I wrote also in articles you can find on leozagami.com, in 2020, in the early stages of the pandemic, Ratzinger wrote a book with Cardinal Sarah that criticized Pope Francis. At that point, Pope Francis decided to isolate Ratzinger completely. So he said to Father Georg, because Father Georg was also the head of the of La Prefettura, basically of the papal house, let's say, for both popes, and he was an intermediary. He would co-participate with the Pope, then go to the other Pope. It was like, for people seeing Georg meant that there was a good relationship between the two popes, because it was like Ratzinger's secretary was still, visibly in charge of things with Pope Francis. But from that moment onwards, he was kicked out of his office, and Ratzinger was increasingly isolated until they didn't permit any visit. With the excuse of the pandemic, they completely isolated him. And so the only person he could see was Father Georg, but Father Georg was not able to see anybody anymore himself, because he wasn't really celebrating Mass with the Pope or invited to the Pope any longer. So now, in the last week or so, everybody's talking about Father Georg, because Father Georg has openly criticized all the progressive transformation of the church that Pope Francis is implementing, and Pope Francis has called them and has basically told them that he has lost his job, and he basically gave him the out now, and so we don't know if Father Georg will become like a figure like Monsignor Vigano, who starts talking like Vigano, openly against Pope Francis. We don't know that yet.
Well, there's another book. I thought you were going to go into this, so it must be two different things. There's this other book.
And there is another maybe book you're talking about. If you're talking about
with the maybe it's the tell-all about how the NSA and spy agencies were involved in Benedict's removal.
Oh, yes. Now, a friend of mine who is basically a general, he he basically is a very known Italian general. He knew, of course, as an Italian general he had a relationship with the NSA. Now, he came out after the death of Ratzinger, and he said basically that his friends at the NSA confirmed him that Ratzinger, this happened just after the election of Ratzinger, so not after years or 10 years ago. This happened in 2005. I mean, we're talking here about after the death of John Paul II. As soon as he was elected, they told him he will not last. We will make him resign. And that is really, for a lot of people, they say, wow, this is a big thing because Pope Ratzinger always said that he resigned because of his health. We all know that is rubbish. Actually, in the book of Father Gershwin, or Father Georg, in a way, we can see that he's also saying that he was forced to resign. He didn't resign for natural causes. So, Generale Piero Laporta, who is a very important general, and you can also go and check his blogs and stuff, he was the one who picked up on this information that was given to him by the NSA. The NSA basically told himself, but in my book, Pope Francis, the Last Pope, I also explained how the actual ultimatum basically was given to Pope Ratzinger to resign by a Jesuit called Cardinal Maria Martini. When he arrived in Milan for the Day of the Families, it was a big event. Ratzinger arrived there. The guy came and picked him up at the airport. And when he came and picked him up, he told them, you need to resign. Now people will say, how powerful was this Cardinal Martini? He was very powerful. He was a Jesuit. He was part of a group known as the Mafia of St. Gallen Mafia. But that is not the only group that was against Ratzinger. Then, like Laporta said, there were a lot of dark people in the... let's say that in Rome, there was a group of people connected to the black aristocracy who started to force also their own idea that Ratzinger needed to resign, also because they are in charge of the Vatican bank assets, which was also another big problem, because there was a lot of problem with the Vatican bank reform, and there has been a lot of problems even after Ratzinger resigned, also with Pope Francis. The problems that the Vatican Bank has is transparency, because here you're talking about a bank that for decades has laundered money for the Vatican Mafia, the cocaine cartels from Medellin. So, I mean, we're talking about half of South America that's been laundering money in the Vatican. And then you have the mafia, the Italian mafia. Imagine that the head of the Italian mafia is still nowadays is around. So it's known. It's called Matteo Messina Denaro. He's the godfather at the moment. Apparently, he hangs out at the Vatican dressed up as a monk. And he goes around dressed up as a monk. That's how he manages to stay free. He's the most, he has Interpol, everybody searching for him. But then in the end, he goes around dressed up as a monk. Nobody bothers it.
Well, look, as far as Rome goes, how about that? What are your people telling you about the state of affairs in Rome, especially what will become of Francis? We knew that he's been in bad shape for a while now, and a lot of people have speculated as to whether or not he will be this prophesized last pope. And so what do you see for a guy who probably doesn't have much long left himself? What happens in Rome after the fact? What do you think is going to be coming our way with that?
Well, of course, the Pope is very sick. The Pope has a cancer at the colon. The Pope is very sick. Is not much better than his predecessor. And if you think about it, the Pope is actually only 1 year older than Ratzinger was when he actually resigned. So more or less the same age. And we are exactly 10 years after. So a lot of people are wondering if Pope Francis will resign in February, or at least during the course of this year. His successor will be a person which will still nominally be a pope, but since Pope Francis has already changed Pope Francis in the last couple 3 years has gradually changed also certain denominations of the Pope, who is not any longer the supreme pontiff, but is more and more like a normal bishop. So yes, you are right in saying he's the last Pope in the sense of the almighty Pope that, will live a whole life and die in his office. There will no longer be that. It's been with the resigning of Pope Francis, they will normalize the fact that the Pope reached 85, he will resign. That's it, like any other job. There's no sacrality, no sanctity. It was particularly sad to see that there was no respect by Pope Francis towards Ratzinger in his last days and in his funeral, because the funeral was done without even proclaiming a day of mourning in the Vatican. It was a day like the other. They didn't even shut the Vatican Museum. So, this is unprecedented. It never happened before in the history of the Vatican. But you see, the next Pope will be an African Pope. And that would be not a black Pope in the sense of a Jesuit Pope, because we had that with Pope Francis. It will be probably Cardinal Turkson. It will probably be, basically, Cardinal Turkson is going to be in Davos on the 16th. He's he's a friend of, he's expert in economy. He's a friend of Klaus Schwab, and he is black. So it's not because I'm racist here, of course, but it's because they want to put this figure, Peter Turkson, the moment in which the big migrant crisis will accelerate. We have already 500,000 people arriving every year in the EU. That is unprecedented in the last couple of years. And with the crisis at a worldwide level, we will have 100 million people moving. So they put a black pope.
So he could be the one.
Propaganda stunt.
Yeah.
And then they will accept. You have to accept everything that comes your way, even the invasion, literally, of 100 million people moving from Africa.
Wow, there's just so much going on right now, Leo, and I can't wait to get my hands on this book. And I eventually I want to have the entire anthology that you have over there in my personal library. But it's getting more and more interesting, and we're actually seeing this used to be something you have to go dig somewhere for a book, and it's always talking about what may happen in the future. It's so...
Yeah, in this book I tell stories that nobody knows, like, for example, Bob Dylan arriving in the Vatican smoking a joint a few meters from John Paul II, while the Swiss guard goes to Bob Dylan and says, "Can you move, because the wind is blowing it towards Pope John Paul."
The Pope is stoned. The Pope is high. You can't do this anymore.
You can't get the Pope high, and the Pope was already in precarious conditions. But then also, I explain also how after the Second Vatican Council, they tried to normalize a certain kind of music that was censored. Of course, they censored the Beatles. They put Aleister Crowley on the cover of Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts. But they then they unblocked all this censorship they had in the early 80s. They took away every single prohibition, because they had a list of censored books, music until the early 80s, the Vatican, and then that vanished away. And at the same time, they started transforming the Mass, which was literally completely different. The Trident Mass, in Latin, like the Orthodox, going towards God instead than towards the public, not in the vernacular language, not in the profane, in the mundane language, English, Italian, whatever. It was always in Latin. Now Pope Francis is prohibiting the Masses in Latin. Is literally prohibiting in the American dioceses the Masses in Latin, which is unprecedented. So there is a direct attack. And then they started to make a farce out of the Mass. So you started seeing in the 70s the priest with the guitar and the music,
the DJs,
and it became, and then they brought even gospel choirs. Gospel is not part of the Catholic tradition. It is a Baptist thing. It doesn't have anything to do with the gospel, with the Catholic tradition. So it made weaker and weaker. And then, of course, they injected liberation theology. They injected all these people like this, and it's not what the Catholic religion used to be. It's been washed until it then becomes diluted enough so they can merge it with everybody else. Because remember, their intention is to merge with everybody else. And like I said just earlier, they made a commitment to control the AI because ultimately their God is going to be Cyber Satan, the AI. The Antichrist will be a person, but they will worship the AI.
Well, last question for you tonight, Leo. Is the Antichrist already here? Have we met him yet?
He's here. Of course, we don't know the time or place in which he will reveal himself, and we can never be sure of his identity. But in the last chapter of my book, I directed people towards who this figure is and where it will come out from. And I point towards the British Royal House, the English, because that is, of course, the important, quite frankly, who is the creator of the Great Reset, Klaus Schwab, is, if not Prince Charles, now King Charles III.
I mean, hey, but between those two and the Pope, they were the biggest first voices about Great Reset, and in 2020, it was Prince Charles actually was the tip of the spear for that whole coming out party in summer of 2020.
And now we have also the rise of Prince William, the confrontation with Harry, and all that. I mean, it's all part of something that, of course, we also, and I show this in my book, and I talk this about, forget who was making the Rolling Stones. I mean, Mick Jagger was made a sir by, not by the Queen. The Queen that day was off duty. She preferred Prince Charles to do that. So Mick Jagger and his sympathy for the devil, but the Rolling Stones are the ones who did an album called to Her Satanic Majesty Request, no? Mm-hmm. We're talking about the Rolling Stones, who were involved, of course, with Kenneth Anger. They made the song Sympathy for the Devil. And then we have the Beatles, who were bestowed, made baronets. But, when people watch the myth of the Beatles, they always think about their arrival in America and all those girls. I explain in my book how this was made, was staged, and how it was a whole farce. And the minute, because my book is not only about esotericism, we haven't had the possibility, of course, this 700 pages book is impossible to reassume in an hour or so. But I can tell you that the military-industrial complex is very much, as you know, present in Hollywood. And that is also an important part of my book, because their presence then facilitated this whole rise of the Antichrist. Imagine that this whole collaboration started in 1915 with a film. That film was called Birth of a Nation. That film was a promotional film for the KKK. And 100 years later, we are here instead with a Hollywood woke, and you have to have so many characters that are Chinese, so many characters that are this, so many characters that are that, and it's all about color, it's all about, they went from an extreme to another, and it's all constructed. The guy who made Birth of a Nation, D.W. Griffith, founded United Artists with Charlie Chaplin, and everybody says, oh, what a wonderful guy. Oh, his speech, the dictator. The guy was a pedophile. Just so you know, Charlie Chaplin was a communist pedophile. So I lift a veil on Hollywood. I explain you how RCA, EMI, they all came out of the military-industrial complex, how the Rockefeller Foundation was involved from the very early start, how NBC, ABC, all these channels are being created and come out from the same financing. Chase.
We're gonna have it's one slap in the face after another, Leo. I can't wait to have.
In fact, actually, in my book, I say it here. I summarize the book saying you will never watch a movie or listen to music in the same way.
It's becoming harder. It really is. It's becoming very, very hard.
You can, because like I said at the beginning of my book, you can still adapt yourself and listen to music in the right frequency, listen to the right music. Of course, I'm not going to listen to Zina LaVey and Shrek, or I'm going to listen to Marilyn Manson or to the heavy metal. Or Mr. Crowley of Ozzy Osbourne, which is himself a figure which, if you think about, has gone from promoting the most satanic rock in the 70s to promoting the most garbage TV in the 90s. You know, so he's been a pioneer, Ozzy Osbourne, but not a pioneer for good. And God doesn't really treat you well when you are not a pioneer for good. And the karma that these people get back is very bad. I'm very sorry to say Elvis Presley was part of all this. And Lisa Marie, too. Sadly, she's not with us any longer, but she's been a victim of the system.
Well, Leo, I can't wait to have you back because obviously we've only just skimmed the surface. This is the second time you've been on. We should definitely do a few more this year. And if there's anything else, you let me know what's new with you. I'm always checking out your blog. I'd love to have you back soon. And I hope that people go out and check out your book, Confessions of Illuminati, Volume 8, From the Rise of the Antichrist to the Sound of the Devil and the Great Reset. It's on Amazon. Where else?
And then you can always go on my website, leozagami.com, for my latest articles and for the links to my books. And of course, I hope to speak to you soon because you're going to be seeing so many changes only this year. But in the next 7 years, guys, we're going to experience the takeover of Cyber Satan planned for the year 2030. Because the 23 appears also in 2030. Think about it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So that's it, you know? So we go from 2023 to 2030, and the situation is going to unfortunately get worse and worse. But like I said, people who are aware of all this will eventually construct a society outside of all this mess. The smart cities are the cities of Satan. Smartphones are the phones of Satan. Smart houses are the houses of Satan. Everything smart, like I say in my books, is satanic, sadly. We can use it. At the moment, we can take advantage of certain aspects of it, but eventually we will be asked to make a choice. And that choice will be, you want to microchip yourself or you want to stay free? And I will, of course, stay free, even if it means losing everything, because freedom is something that can't be qualified. And so, I mean, for me, is the value that brought me here to America, and I will continue to cherish until the last moment of my life.
Well,
God bless you all, guys.
God bless you too. Be well. Thank you so much, Leo, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for all of your great work and the time you put aside for us tonight.
Thank you, and it's always a pleasure, and I'm sure that we will have many other discussions in the future as we have to denounce and expose these people to wake up and create a community that is more and more out of the web, because remember that we will have to create a community in the real world, because they want to entrap us in this fictional metaverse, in this digital world, and that's not me. No. I prefer to go back to the roots, to simple things, to simplicity.
I think
quite frankly, and that's quite frankly, like we ended up like this. Quite frankly,
a lot of people would agree with you. And have a great night, Leo. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, well there you go. How was that, Matt?
Everything he said was true.
I was waiting for you to jump in.
Oh, I didn't know the mic was on.
Of course it was.
Oh, yeah, dude. That's shit's been destroying countries for 100 years. That's Rasputin was in that shit. Hitler had to fucking dig up some type of root in between a certain time of night and ingest it to become chancellor, or some shit root? Like that. He had to dig up something somewhere, some mystic or whatever.
I got to look into that one. Obviously, I know he was obsessed with the occult, so I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. And we know all about the Vril and what they were doing. Oh, man, that's really interesting stuff. 8:28, we're going to take a really quick break. When we come back, your super chats, some calls, and whatever kind of banter we have over here. Don't go anywhere. Fun is coming.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to intermission.
We'll be right back.
Yeah, intermission.
Quite frankly.
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 Quite frankly. Quite frankly.
We all support quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Let's go, Brandon.
Not quite.
Quite frankly in Roma, Italia.
I really like you. You're very smart.
So everybody watch. Quite frankly. With Frank.
Quite frankly. How dare you?
What's going on here? Where's my music? Jeez. I pressed play. Didn't want to go anywhere. Ruined my whole flow. I just dropped a beat. I don't like dropping beats. Makes the whole day. So, Matt. Of course. You know what, Matt? It's becoming a thing. Here. It's becoming a thing. This is a screen. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm gay. Because I took a screenshot hoping that you would say it tonight. And of course you did. So here's the screenshot. Nancy Pelosi, oh no, it's not Nancy Pelosi, it's just some other idiot, was talking about January 6th. This was back on January 6th. They're talking about the Capitol Police that died, lost their lives as a result of the attack, which is all a lie. And I said over there, oh yes, the day after, I'm whatever. I said my thing. And then under me is when somebody else said, this Michael Trimble said, "Hi Frank, I didn't know you were on Twitter. Love your show. I'm gay." With an exclamation point.
It's funnier because I hope that lady saw it. It's like, what the fuck?
What's going on here? Dude, it's becoming a thing where people just will randomly just say, it's almost like becoming a punctuation mark. Like instead of putting a period, people are just putting "I'm gay." And I know exactly what they mean. So every once in a while, I'll quote you in the chat room on YouTube at the end of a show. I'll put in quotations "I'm gay" and then I'll attribute it Matt. And everybody just knows. So it's becoming a thing. And you know what I realized?
This is just the final form, dude. This has been going shit, bro. When we used to pretend, me, Diego, and all that, when we used to pretend to kill each other, dude, like in high school. That's all. Would you like say something before you die? You get shot, be like, "Tch," and we just go, "Tch, I'm gay."
Yeah, well,
that's what it's like. I'm gay. It's taking the final form. It'll take other forms. We've
had a lot of different types of jokes like that. Any tight knit group of guys do. It's all gay when it comes down to it. But you know what I realized? I actually realized this last night as I was driving home from the studio. That it would be impossible for me to come out as gay now to anyone and have them take me seriously. and you know what the funny thing was, that on the ride home last night, I spent the entire ride home saying I'm gay with different deliveries.
I do that too. Because I'm always thinking of new ways to do it.
Okay. Yeah. So that was hold on. I just I just ripped something out of here. Oh my gosh. So I would do that. So I'm saying it to myself. I'm saying it to myself. Oh,
I'm dying.
I'm saying, and I'm driving home, and I'm trying to deliver the line with different deliveries, and the more serious it got, like if I said, okay, no, be serious, try to come out in a serious way, and the more serious I got, it was impossible. Like, Matt, can you
to get more serious?
I tried to get as serious as I could. Like, if I had to convince Lauren, I said, I stilled myself last night in the car. If I had to convince Lauren that I was gay, what would I we gotta stop.
Oh, I do the opposite, bro. I try and make it sound like more outlandish.
Okay.
I also do it with, oh my god, come too.
Yeah. Okay.
I already have evolved that into something new, but I can't send it through the voice note. I don't know why.
I don't know. I tried so hard. Like, I was saying things to myself. I won't even be able to get through any of it now. So it's pointless. Like, man, if I was trying to tell you, I was saying things like, you know, something's been nagging me for a while. I've been searching for a lot of. I feel like I've had a lot of inner conflict. I just can't. It's impossible. I'd never be able to get through it now. It's over. It's impossible.
Remember, I left the notes from Diego on your car, and you thought it was real.
Because I didn't know you. I didn't know how far you were willing to go with jokes yet, as to frame other people. At that point. Here, this will make you feel good. Ready?
Not gonna let some big shot saucy king sweep in with your mambo moves and your Eric Estrada look
Matt.
and come in and try to take her away, because I've had that happen before and it's not gonna happen again.
Ruben, I'm gay.
Hey, I don't care what you what?
Ruben, I have to get that one part.
Really, I'm gay.
I'm gay.
Happen again.
Ruben, I'm gay.
We were just talking about the Illuminati. Oh, how did we get here?
I'm gay.
Oh my God! Oh, that's how we got here.
Really? I'm gay.
So, yeah, that's all. It's been a good night.
There's that.
Oh man, I cry. I haven't had a good cry like that in a while.
And there's the theory that I came up with over the break.
What theory?
With the 23, the number 23.
Oh, what was this?
Because, you know, all this semblance with the number 23 and all that, and it's just funny because Timothy Alberino is also the stunt double for the Dutton kid that's in Africa right now.
I know.
He does all the stunts with the fucking lions, with the cats.
The leopards.
And the leopards.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. Timothy Alberino was on last night. We did a big show on the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis and ancient great resets and cataclysmic events on Earth and civilization ending. We did Atlantis, all that stuff. And people started taking note that he had a ring on his right hand, on his right index finger.
You have a cat on it?
It was a lion.
You see?
He came out at the end and said, "Oh, I just want to let you know, it's a lion. It's nothing Masonic. You know, so for all the conspiracy," I said, Timothy, honestly, that's not the conspiracy theory that you should be with. This audience, all they see is a cat. They're not thinking about the Freemasons right now. They just see you having a cat ring on." And he immediately went, "Oh, I forgot." He forgot.
See, the ring I got, it's a horseshoe. So, you know, if anything, I'm a fucking horse.
That's, you know, and that's better. Oh, okay. Let's get to some super chats. Boy, oh boy. Here we go. Pawpaw Tree says, all good. All good. Love your show. Thank you, Pawpaw. It's been a while. Haven't seen Pawpaw Tree out there. It's great to have them back. Snowstube says, great guest tonight. Even better independent media. Thank you, Frank. Have a wonderful weekend. Frank and all the Franklies. Then we did Hugh before. All right, over to Rumble. My gosh. I don't see any Rumble rants over there, so I'll just hang tight. Everybody's having a good time. We had a great audience over there. I checked the Rumble rants, ladies and gentlemen, so don't hold back. I know it's a lot of work on my end, but I try, especially the monetized chat rooms, I have to pay close attention to them, so don't think I'd be leaving you out if you wanted your thoughts right on air. Over on Foxhole, Jay Jewel says, because it's Friday. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Jewel. Thank you so much. 24/7 Spin, the Younger Dryas show rocked last night. I have a great weekend, Frank. Thank you. And I'm going to look into all the suspicious observer stuff that posits that we are really looking at the whole Younger Dryas, the whole that 12,000 year wiping everything off the face of the earth and all of that. I know that there is another approach to it, just talking about how it's cyclical. It's just a cyclical kind of a thing that goes on, and that we're at the end of a cycle and it could be happening again, and it wasn't an impact or anything like that. So I will look into it, and maybe next time that Timothy's on, we can throw that out there. Cave Toad sends a fleet. Says the show last night was amazing. Love when Timothy is on. By the way, check out my Randall Carlson post in the forum. I will. I'm in the forum a lot now that we're doing the book clubs, and everybody should be in the forum, contributing to other people's threads, making new threads, and we'll see what can be featured on the show. Robert Sarn says, excellent show this morning with Beans and Cash. Cash Patel was on Dark to Light this morning. It was fantastic. I think it's featured at somewhere near the top of Citizens Free Press. And then I did another recording this afternoon, which honestly was such a wonderful experience with Robert Phoenix. He asked me questions that I love answering because it gets me to think about our early days over here in like 2005, 6, and when we started off with radio, and we were what kind of technologies we're cobbling together, what we love about the medium, and of course the production of Quite Frankly, which I don't get to talk about too much, like what is going on behind the keyboard over here and how rhythmic it all is. So I had such a good time with Robert Phoenix today, and a lot more of that kind of stuff coming. I'll make sure I put those interviews in the Sunday night programming this weekend, so you can see me on with Robert Phoenix. You can go to his YouTube right now, but I'll have it on the network this weekend. That was a lot of fun this afternoon. Sean Joe, thank you. Chai Possum says, hi, Matt.
What's up?
C. Blanche says, Frank and Matt, LFG.
What's that?
I don't know. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, all right.
Maybe.
I'm old.
I guess I am too. Space Coast Patriot says Hugh Janus. Uncensored Abe, great guest, great show as always, bro. Thank you, Abe. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad that me and Leo were able to get this going. I didn't know if he'd ever be on the show again. Jay Jewel says, love the show, Frank, Matt, and Leo.
Yeah, you think Andre the Giant had a huge anus? Like, you think it was proportionate?
Like, compared to ours?
Like, to the average person?
If Andre the Giant's anus would be bigger than yours. Why would he have an exceptionally small anus? Why? That makes no sense.
I don't know. I didn't know if that's like something that's just like an average size.
I would have to imagine somebody that
standard size.
I would just have to imagine Andre the Giant's standard is just going to be naturally bigger than everybody else's standard. Let's see. Space Coast Patriot, thank you. River Pike, thank you. Just because. Here's a 6-pack to kick the weekend off. Wow, thank you, Bob.
Nice.
Boys Blanc says, great guest. I'm buying the book. I'm going to get all of them just to have them in a physical library. I just don't want to buy any more books until I know how much shelf space Lauren and I are going to be able to create over the next few months. Got a lot of life changes coming over here with living space. So I just need to get things in storage, on the shelves, and accessible, because what's the point of having this stuff if you can't access it and interact with it? So just because, again, thank you, for all of you guys. Thank you. Amazington says, eye-opening guest, thank you, Frank. Deplorable Farmer, thank you. River Pike, thank you. Kitty Woo. Keith says Leo is amazing. Cave Toad says, quite frankly, is killing it to start out the beginning of the apocalypse. Great interview. Thanks, Frank. Chai Possum, wow. Just wow. Leo's amazing. Delona 55, today is my 49th birthday. Happy birthday, Delona. Belushi says, dude, the most important topic of our timeline right now. Excellent, Frank. Simply excellent. Cave Toad again, I'm an alien and I'm gay. Boys Blanc.
Gaylian.
Boys Blanc says, I'm gay. From now on, I'm going to say hi. I'm straight, only cruder. And then River Pike closes us out with some cookies there. Wow, fantastic. Okay, so that's all of our super chat. Oh, there's a little bit that just came in on Rumble. One came in from Rapuzol. Says, thank you, Frank and Matt, for the laughs. Hey, I'm glad you enjoyed. I needed it tonight, too. This felt good coming on out.
Yeah, I think Leo actually may also be a cat. It might be like a relative of the same family of Tim.
They're friends,
Well, yeah, because look, that's what he's trying to say. He had the lion on his ring. What's the line? The line is Leo. Leo.
You're right. Oh my gosh.
Who's the fucking cat?
I can't believe how much this makes sense. This is bad. There's something. Oh my gosh. Winston's brother Maurice says, I identify as a trans Siamese cat. So now Winston has a brother possum called Maurice, and he's got problems. All right, we're gonna take a really quick break. When we come back, we're gonna take some calls, maybe some Babylon B. We'll see, but don't go anywhere.
Vain guy.
You should see my car.
Stank suit?
Check out my frown. It's a jumbled code.
Marvelous. The bee's unwashed knees.
Nah, it's just bee's knees. Can you mention that we changed it?
You just did. Chevy dude?
Penguins.
Good point. Sad euphoria? I'm not lonely. Sounds convincing. Latoul? Don't care for Latoul. Pink ghosting. I got plenty of guacamole in the business office. Now I'm starving.
Cute little dog you've got there. But hold on. In a previous life, he could have been George Washington. Nice cat. Perhaps Annie Oakley? And look at him. Why, it's Napoleon. Reincarnation. What human being was your pet in a previous lifetime? Master reincarnationist E. David Scott will tell you when you call this number. Just answer simple questions with your touch-tone phone. $1.95 per minute for entertainment only. Under 18, get permission. Call now. Learn who your pet was as a human in a previous lifetime.
I love QFTV.
You're cool.
What's up? I love QFTV.
Yep. You're cool.
What's QFTV?
Did you say what's QFTV? Miss, you're gonna need to go over there and watch QFTV Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, right after Quite Frankly. Oh, you're definitely cool. Only on QuiteFrankly.tv, powered by Foxhole.
Well, how does this mask do that?
Well, if you can get the idea of what doing 8 setups a second would do for your stomach, you have an idea of what Rejuvenate would do for your face. Actually sends an impulse up to the zones in the mask and actually activates the face and skin to exercise, tighten, and tone.
During a facial toning session, the system delivers a mild impulse generated by a tiny 9-volt battery from the control unit. These impulses are directed to the specially designed gold-plated facial cushions of the patented facial mask and actually activate the face and skin to exercise, tighten, and tone through each of the 12 facial zones. These impulses start in the forehead facial zone and about every 20 seconds automatically move one zone at a time through each of the 12 facial zones.
Matt, did you hear that? The pet reincarnation?
Well, I'm pretty sure my Leo was definitely George Washington.
Leo was George Washington?
Yeah. Or actually, no, he was Leonidas.
He was Leonidas. Oh, yeah. So, there's a lot. There's a lot going on out there. Friday the 13th, I'm glad that we got all of that in, too. We got a little bit of a string strung through all of that on Friday the 13th with the Templars and 23 and 1307. Do I have anything else? Well, here. Wait. There's one thing. You want to do some... Hold on. I'll open up the lines and we'll go to Babylon B in between one or two calls. All right, so... Quite frankly, we're taking some calls at the end, 914-595-6953. Thank you for all of your likes and your support and your sharing. And yeah, please, over the weekend, consider becoming a sponsor of the show, which can be done for as little as $2 a month right through quitefrankly.tv on the sponsor us section. But you get all the perks, the Sunday streams, the book club access, and then many other specialty perks on places like Subscribestar. So would love to have you as a sponsor of the show going forward and the network at large. All right. Let's go to Babylon B. We'll take a call as I start filtering through. Let's see. Where are we? Okay, here we go. First one up, we'll give it Matt stacked on top over here. Headline from the Babylon Bee, the best source of news you can get. Yet another stash of classified documents discovered during Biden's colonoscopy. They're just everywhere, these things. Headline, Associate Pastor Ascends to Glory After Perfect Morning Announcement Delivery. I guess they always stutter through their things. Chaos after Pete Buttigieg falls asleep on shut down all travel button again. You heard what they said about the grounding? That it was a faulty line of code, a faulty code, like a 30-something-year-old code, and the backups failed, everything failed.
What do you mean?
I think it was I don't know, 2 or 3 days ago.
All the flights canceled.
All the flights were canceled for like hours or something like that, and it happened. It was mirrored to a degree in Canada. I don't know how much I believe that it was just the code and there wasn't some kind of normalization reason for all of it, but here you go. Headline, Pfizer reportedly working on vaccine to counteract gas stove emissions. That's what we need. They're coming after the gas stoves now,
Yeah.
Matt.
Well, she already banned them in New York, didn't she?
Well, she tried. GS Meats in the comments says 2 weeks to lower the fumes. Headline, DOJ indicts Trump for Biden's possession of classified documents. Like, that's what they were waiting for.
Sounds about right.
Look at that. I'm telling you, if anybody follows Kyle Dunnigan and has enjoyed that incredibly brilliant Wendell character that Kyle Dunnigan came up with back in 2022, in like April of 22 or something, he's Merrick Garland. He's got that shovel-shaped head. He's this little pipsqueak. He's just a sad-looking gremlin. I'm telling you, he's Kyle Dunnigan's Wendell character. Here's another headline that will take a call. With all the female M&Ms off on their own bag, male M&Ms finally enjoying some peace and quiet. There you have it. And last one, I'm sorry. After hearing it's a dangerous hazard that killed millions, Biden proposes a ban on fire. That's that. Oh, what a weekend. What a weekend we have coming up. For everybody. For everybody. 914-595-6953. You call in, or we're just popping off. I'll take one call here. 931. Who's this?
Ruben.
Hey,
and I'm gay.
Hey, what's going on, Ruben? Good to have you here.
Nothing much, man. How's it going?
No, hey, we're at the tail end of a show I'm very pleased with, so I'm glad to have you here, and I can't wait to hear what's on your mind.
So I have a question for Matt.
Okay.
I was hunting about a month ago, and I saw maybe Winston's relative, and it was weird because he would freeze, and every time I would move, that was the only time he would move. So I want to know if Matt's ever seen that.
So he's saying that he saw a possum out there while he was hunting, and that he would freeze whenever he would stop, and he would move whenever he would move. You ever see that kind of synchronized behavior?
Like mirroring like that? No, not really.
So am I just been...
Yeah, it was almost like a Simon Says.
Wow. Was it coming toward you or away?
No, away. Definitely away.
Well, so Matt, you never saw...
Might have been a younger one, maybe. Didn't know what the fuck he was doing.
No, he was older. He was a big boy.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
I don't know, because usually I'm there. I'm like, I just go and grab them, so they're always like running or trying to get away from me. So I've never
And they're not
really
very
seen
fast.
That. They're faster than you think.
And they climb, right?
They're good climbers.
It would climb too, and it would freeze whenever I'd stop moving, and he'd climb up when I'd move.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Ruben, it's doesn't sound like it just might have been the personality of that particular animal, because it doesn't sound like it's anything that is too textbook, according to Matt.
No, I've never seen it before.
What were you hunting?
Whatever came around, to be honest with you.
Did you what was your take home for the day? Anything?
Nothing. I saw one deer, I spooked one, and that was it for the whole weekend.
Well, you try again. You could have eaten possum.
No, sir. No, thank you.
Matt, are they strictly nocturnal? I don't think they're strictly nocturnal.
They're nocturnal, but they could come out during the day.
I've seen them quite a bit in the day.
Yeah.
You know, but
this was about 8 a.m.
Okay, all right. Yeah, they're still hungover from the night before. They're party animals. They really are. All right, Ruben. Thanks for the call. Have a great weekend.
Have a good night, gentlemen.
All right. Take care.
Later.
All right. I guess that's it. We have another great. There's one other thing here. Did you ever hear the Fat Man Clubs, Matt?
Fat Man Clubs? No, I heard of the Fat Boys from the 80s.
Oh yeah, I know. Skip loved the Fat Boys. Loved them. But this is something different. Tell me if you knew about this. A little bit of history for you all right now. I know Matt likes stuff like this. This is from History Feels on Instagram. Here are the members of Fat Men's Club of New York from 1904. Members of the Fat Men's Club had to be at least 200 pounds and pay $1 fee to enter and learn a secret handshake and a password. Fat Men's Clubs were popular in the late 1800s. The first one opened in 1869 and into the early 1900s. Club members were typically wealthy, and the clubs often arranged busy social calendars for their membership that included balls, sports events, and banquets, which often doubled as networking events. The club events often opened with a public weigh-in of the membership with prizes for the heaviest men. Competition at these public weigh-ins was heated, enough to inspire widespread cheating, with participants loading down their pockets with weights in order to appear heavier. Many clubs ran eating contests before the official weighings. These clubs were most prominent during a time when societal attitudes toward male obesity were largely positive. Being overweight was seen as a sign of economic success, and was also, because you didn't have to go out there and break your ass to make a buck, and was also thought to correspond with kindness and good humor, because they're jolly.
Yeah.
Bowl full of jelly. Fat men's clubs declined in the 20th century as male obesity transitioned to being perceived as a primarily negative trait. And now, of course, fat women's clubs are popping up all over the place, where they're being told that they are courageous and brave and beautiful for eating themselves into oblivion. And, you know, the other thing that changed here too is the views of being fat and society and wealth and all this stuff has changed, because it's the opposite now. The poorest people are the fattest.
Yeah, it's true. It's this in the United States. Yeah, obesity is mostly a lower class thing.
Just incredible. Really is. All right, Matt, if you have any wishes for the weekend for yourself and everybody else, what would it be?
Have a good weekend.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. I mirror that. Thank you to Cave Toad, who just puts a new one. Cave Toad says, new rule, all calls must begin with "I'm game." Uncensored Abe says, agency officials are attempting to determine whether the two people made the changes accidentally or intentional. That'll be something to see. I'm releasing the scratching right now. Remember, Friday night, weekend roundup, that is starting right now on quitefrankly.tv. So get over there. I'll be in the chat room before long. 26 Ahab says, so glad I got bombed for this episode. Love y'all mucho. Oh, I'm glad. This was definitely an episode to be chilling for, and it got raucous at one point. I love that when it does. I couldn't breathe at one point. That was absolutely fantastic.
I think I popped a hernia, bro.
It's fantastic. And now comes Winston. Says, the thing about us, Frank, is you never really know if we are dead, do you? No. And that's where this whole thing started for me. I'm sorry to all of your ancestors that I buried alive. All right. Thank you, guys and gals. You've been wonderful. Head on over to quitefrankly.tv and enjoy yourself over there. We're going to have things rolling all weekend. I'll have special programming curated by myself on Sunday night. And next week, we will do the Saturday night show. I don't know, Matt, if you're around Saturday the 21st. But
next Saturday?
Yeah. Maybe if you want to come by, it'd be great to have you on again. Just letting you know. The 21st, next week will be at least a 6-day week. And if you're a sponsor and you hang out with me for a couple minutes on a Sunday afternoon, it's a 7-day week next week. So become a sponsor. We still have book club coming up, session 2 on Wednesday. And thank you, everybody, for being a part of a very successful week. I will see you on Monday, and have a good one.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Quite Frankly is film before a live studio audience, and now our super chatters, starting with Winston, Winston's brother Maurice, Pawpaw Tree, Stowstube, Hugh Janus, Mrs. Winston, Phil Slater, and Absalom, and Phil's WW. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much. We will see you tomorrow. Take care. Take care.
And the truest, alas, are the fewest. But be one of these if you can. In duty ne'er fail, you will find 'twill avail you and bring its reward when a man. Don't think life plain sailing, there's danger of failing, though bright the future seem to be. But bright honor and labor and truth to your neighbor will bear you safe over life's seas. Then up and be doing, right only pursuing, and take your fair part in the strife. Be honest and true, boys, whatever you do, boys. Let this be your motto through life.